stars of animation are shining. It's time to stay tuned. And now, here's your host, Phil Mackey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Stay Tuned Live, the animation themed talk show presented by Streaming the Magic right here on Facebook. My name is Phil Mackey. I'm an animator, podcaster, and former Disney cast member, and it is my pleasure to be your host each and every week as we dive into the world of animated film. Before we get started tonight, here's a reminder to those of you who might be new to Stay Tuned. This show and its podcast companion are shows that require full-time commitment. The main way I'm able to dedicate that kind of time is through the support from viewers like you. So if you're enjoying the show, you are invited to become an official tuner by visiting patreon.com/Phil Mackey. With fun rewards and multiple tiers to accommodate any budget, you'll find it's a great way to get involved and help me continue this series. Also, you're invited tomorrow night to an all-new live stream show hosted by yours truly. It's called Phil's Artist Conversations, and it features fellow artist and close personal friend Mario Mora. We're going to take a closer look at the lives of working artists and analyze what it means to pursue a professional creative life. Our guest tomorrow is comic book editor Casey Pierce, so tune in tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. You can watch for free from the official Stay Tuned page right here on Facebook. That's facebook.com/Stay Tuned Show. Okay. Tonight's guest, and boy am I excited for this, is the first person to join me for both my Stay Tuned podcast and now the live stream show. She portrayed the pranky pixie Tinkerbell in Walt Disney's 1953 classic film, Peter Pan, a character that has gone on to become an icon in her own right and has even sparked a fairy-themed series of films. So here to discuss what it's like to be Tinkerbell, please welcome the one and only Margaret Kerry.
Hello there.
Hello.
And what a fun music that you had to start the show.
Oh,
and
yeah.
What a happy person you are, and we need happiness. Absolutely.
I agree. Thank you. And I'm so glad that you mentioned the music, because I never get a chance really to talk about the music. But I will mention briefly, it is a band called Harris Brothers Texans, I believe is what they were called. The song was from 1929, and it's called Gut Bucket Shuffle.
1929, that's when I was born.
Well, it's appropriate that I played it.
Yes, I'm headed for 91 on my next birthday.
And the last time we spoke officially on a show was when you were 89. So
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that was so long ago, I can't possibly remember.
You look better now. I don't know how you
aren't you a dear? Yeah. Well, I'm glad I came on this program. I want to talk about tonight, if we can, on the program, and of course Tinkerbell.
Of course.
But one of the things that we forget about a lot is Marc Davis, the artist who designed Tinkerbell and did most of the animation for Tinkerbell. We forget he was way in the background, because Marc liked to keep himself in the background. Who was it who told me just the other day they tried to find a picture of him and they couldn't? No, you didn't find any. As a matter of fact, he's the only one that I did not have my picture taken with while I was doing the work at Disney Studios.
Oh,
but what a dear, what a genius. So
absolutely.
I was sort of thought we might talk about that again tonight.
We should talk about Marc. I'm really glad you brought him up, because that's true. Animators are actors who stay behind the camera.
Well, some of the 9 old men did not stay behind the camera, but you would if you saw a picture of all of them, literally, they invited me to go through the photo archives over at Disney and pick out the pictures that I want. I don't know whether you can see any of the posters behind me, but some of those are from the archives. And so I said, I'd like a good picture of Marc Davis. We searched and searched and searched. We found the one that everybody uses. He's sitting in his chair at the animation table, leaning back. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the photographer got a bright, the flashbulb reflected back in the light. So somebody had to take that out. But that's about it.
Why do you think he didn't like being, was he just shy, or what was the deal with that?
He was not an introvert. He was one of those people, I believe, who saw everything that was going on around him and took it all in. He didn't have to discuss it. He would keep it tucked away that he was going to use it on this, or he was going to use it on that, or whatever it might be. So he was not this forward conversationalist that some of the animators were, and he was always such a gentleman. We'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah, and absolutely. And so one of the things I'd like to point out for those people that don't know, animators like to use reference material. It helps them create the characters and the things that we get to see. And so even though Tinkerbell is a character who doesn't speak verbally, she does speak with her expression and her movement. That's where they put you in, correct?
Exactly. And one of the biggest things was that she's only 3.5 inches tall, and still growing, by the way.
Oh, okay.
That's what it says. And so who was she? When I got a call over at Fox, I was working there. My agent called, an agent I'd had since I was about 4 years old, I guess, as I started to work when I was 4.
You got an agent when you were 4?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. Isn't that weird? Isn't that?
It's different.
Wait a minute. I have something here. I might be able to show you. Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm going to move the chair back and then come back into it.
Okay. Oh, look at you.
That's me at 4 years of age.
You angelic.
And I will add to it right now because it might be fun.
Oh my goodness.
There I am in our gang.
I love it.
So anyway, I got this call. I'm a dancer all my life, and got the call from this agent who said that can you get a day off? I was assistant dance director at 20th on this particular movie. And I said, oh, I don't want to, we're getting to they're interviewing for a 3.5-inch sprite who didn't talk. And I said, well, yeah, that's great. And she said, I know you're a pantomimist. And I said, well, yes, it's at Disney. I'll be there at 6 a.m. in the morning. Where do you want me? I'll be there no matter what. I will tell them anything. And that's the way most people felt in the movie business at that time.
Well, at that point, there weren't so many. I mean, there weren't all these competing animation studios. Disney was the spearheader at that point.
Absolutely. And it was so fresh and so new.
Right.
But anyway, I was told to go over at a certain time, and I drove into the studio, and lo and behold, the man with the clipboard, the important man, the clipboard, had my name. Had my name. I mean, I was set. And he told me where to park. I had my own parking place.
Oh.
So, and he told me how to get to Marc Davis's office. Well, I got out and I was immediately lost because I was expecting a rehearsal hall. You can imagine. And here was this funny brick building, that looked like a bank or something. And so I'm standing there, and I tell you this story because this is Disney Studio, as opposed to many other studios. I'm standing there looking very confused, and this tall, lanky man comes up along, and he says, "You look lost." And I said, I am. I'm supposed to see Marc Davis. And I thought, he said, oh, no, he's over in that building. Come on, I'll take you. And he stopped what he was doing and took me all the way through the long building upstairs to Marc's office. You wouldn't find that at another studio.
No.
Truly.
Who was that man?
Well, I thought it was Thomas, the animator, but I'm not sure.
Frank Thomas?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I have face blindness, you see. I have a thing called prosopagnosia, which means that I have a very difficult time remembering anybody's face. Wow. So, and I didn't know it at that time. But anyway, he chuckled at years later when we would be at parties and so on. He chuckled about me wandering around. So I think that's who it was.
Okay.
Anyway, and that was the first time that I found out that Marc spelled his name with a C. Right. So would you like to know what happened next?
Of course. I'm riveted.
Okay. So I had a little player with me, a 45 record player, because I knew I started in show business, as I say, when I was 4. So I know that you just didn't walk in and say, hi, hire me.
Right.
So I had done a pantomime of a little boy who was about 11 years old fixing breakfast, with the kind of things, to music. Okay. So I was carrying this, and I walked in, and there's Marc Davis looking at me, and a crowded, he had 2 animated desks, animator's desks in there. And he put it down and said hello, and I gave him my name, and I looked around all over the walls, and here was this enchanting little character with little wings coming out and her hair done up over her head. And I didn't want to stop, but no, I had to sit down. So he said, what is that? And I said, well, I wanted to at least show you I could do pantomime. So I brought this. He said, wait a minute. He called Jerry Geronimi, who was one of the Uber directors of the movie. And he came down, and bless their hearts, one of them got down on their knees to find a plug, to plug this in. Again, I mean, it was just so different.
Sure.
And so I did, they liked it, and they said, there is a seed in this movie, and it's in the nursery, and Tinkerbell lands on a mirror, and she sees herself. And then she likes it, and then she gets very upset because her hips are too large. Can you do that? I was 19, I could do anything, of course. So I stood by and I looked down, and then I got to the part where she looks at herself. And I must tell you, Phyllis, she did not preen. She is looking at herself for the first time. Because I figured out, why would there be a mirror in Neverland?
There wouldn't be.
So it's all, oh, is that me? Is that really me? And then and I stamped off.
I love it. So she was already designed, the facial features, everything. They already had that figured out before you came in?
No.
No, okay.
No, there were just flat line drawings. That was it. Of her with her hands on her hips and things.
Okay.
Excuse me. So it was then, or maybe a week later, I can't remember, where they called me, Marc Davis called me up and said, would it be convenient for you to come to work next Tuesday? And so I said, well, I'm finishing this picture at Fox. And yes, I'd never been asked whether it would be convenient. It would show up at 7:30 in the morning, and that was it.
Right.
And so they said, what time would you like to come?
Wow.
Well, that threw me. And I said,
you arrived at that point.
I said, 10 o'clock. All right. Well,
wow, how nice. That's
thinking, Disney's is better than I thought.
Yeah. That's not usually how things work. No.
So I went there and I wore the one-piece bathing suit. They said that's close enough to get all the lines for her. And I went in and they washed my hair and put it up like Tinkerbell's. And then I walked over to stage one, and they would show me what Mark had in mind for the scene, and then Jerry Geronimi would dance around and try to change this and try to change that, and Mark would very slowly say, "No, I think it should. Let's try it this way. Let's try it." And so I'd look at it, and he'd send me out in front of the big camera and the crew and all the lights, and there was a psych behind me, and and I would try something, and he would say, "I like that. Okay, do it again. I like that. Hit that mark instead of that mark." And so I'd say, "Okay." And so I would do it again. He says, "Okay, we're ready for a take." And they would roll the film, and then they'd finish. He'd turn around, "Okay for everybody?" And they said, "Yes." "Okay, take two for protection." And I was finished with that little scene.
And those scenes were filmed on an area that had larger than life props, right?
Oh, yes, yes.
How fun was that?
Well, when you saw, all you had to do was ask Mark, "What do you mean she's grumpy?" And he'd take 20 seconds and draw her face and turn it around. And then you knew exactly what, or if you say, "What do you do with this prop?" And he had it, he would just draw it. And I knew he was a genius. I knew he was a genius.
Was there a time where you, shortly after you would do a recording session, was there a time where you then would go and look at Mark's drawings and see what he did based off of what you had just done?
No, never, because you see, it was a time when TV was coming along, and nobody really said, "I'm going to work at Paramount, or I'm going to work at Disney, or I'm going to do everything that I can." So I had my own television show on at the same time on Channel 13. I was going in to do on Channel 7, ABC. I was going to do the Charlie Ruggles show. I'll show you a poster from that.
Sure.
I was also doing radio. So you came, you did your work, they loved it or not, or they wanted it over again, and I never had to do any retakes, which made me happy.
So you went from going in for a session to eventually just seeing a completed film. You didn't really see a lot of the in-between process.
No, none.
Okay. And you didn't make it to the premiere, but you did eventually see it in theaters, correct?
Yes, I did. And so I forget how funny it is. Everybody laughs. When I tell them that, they go, "Yeah, I guess it is." But when I went over to, I think I told you the story about being there with my darling second husband.
Yes, but you can tell me again. That's fine.
Okay, all right. Well, my darling second husband, precious man, had never seen the film. And he loved anything about show business and went on to be in show business the 12 and a half years that we were married before I lost him. And so we're in a big theater. It's empty theater in the morning because at 11:30, nobody's there yet. Right? So I thought we could talk. And I'm showing them and I'm telling them, "Oh, look, Jack, I did that when I moved over here. And then I sat down and they had a mattress behind me that was only that. And when I fell over backwards, you could hear me throughout the sound stage." And he leaned over and he said, "Margaret?" I said, "Yes, sweetie." He said, "I'd recognize your thighs any place." That's what he got out of it.
I love that. That's a great story.
Speaking of that, I'm going to jump now.
Speaking of thighs? I said, speaking of thighs?
Speaking of thighs, because one of the most beautiful pair of thighs that anybody has in the world is Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
And there are so many people, and it makes sense when you say, no, she was the model for Tinkerbell. Well, I think Marilyn could do anything. I thought she was one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen. And what a sweet, sweet lady. I worked with her only once, but she was a dear. But I want to tell people when they see the movie or clips from the movie, I want them to notice something. One of the reasons that they hired me was I was a dancer. I could be a ballet dancer, a tap dancer, no jazz, but all the rest. And when you look at her, watch her walk. Her walk is a dancer's walk, a ballerina's walk. Every move that she makes with her hands, everything that she does even when she gets upset, everything is a dancer. Marilyn was not a dancer. She became a wonderful dancer later on. But I still have people say, well, I don't believe it. I think Marilyn was, no, she wasn't. It was little old me.
Well, that's a really fascinating and important distinction I think you made there. And what work did you do with Marilyn? I'm curious.
Oh, well, I had a PR man who was going to build me into a star, all of the ladies kind of thing. And we were going to do rather naughty, in a way, bathing suit spread for a well-known Cosmopolitan, I think it was then, which was different than the Cosmopolitan you have today.
Sure.
But the swimsuits were two-piece. Can you imagine? Well, anyway, so there were 7 of us girls who were going to be featured in this in different swimsuits, two-piece swimsuits, at the Beverly Hills Hotel. They were going to shoot it. And it turned out that Marilyn was one of them. And she was the last girl to get to the bungalow. We had all changed. And she said, oh, I'm so sorry. And she was beautifully made. Oh, she was so gorgeous. You couldn't take your eyes off of her. And she said, that's all right, Marilyn. You go in and change. We still went into the bathroom and changed in those days. We did not stand there as supposedly they do today. And she came out and and then suddenly she started to cry. And what's the matter? And she said, oh, I'm supposed to call somebody at the studio every day, and I forgot to call him, and I didn't bring his phone number, and we said, oh, well, there's the phone over there, call him on the phone. Oh, I think, oh no, and he's going to be so unhappy. And we didn't want her to be unhappy, believe me.
Right.
So anyway, Marva, who was sort of the ringleader of the 7 of us, said, well, I'll tell you what, Marilyn, why don't we call the studio and have them tell him that you won't call? Oh, she said, he's in London. I forgot he's going to London today. I said, well, then you can't call him because it's in the middle of the night. Oh, no, I have to call him. And so we all were going to do something. And Marva said, you have a driver, don't you? And she says, yes, I do. And she says, I'll get the driver. He'll take care of it. You think so? And I said, yes. And so she said, she called, and the driver came over. He says, Marilyn, what's the problem? She told him, he says, I'll take care of it. Don't you worry about a thing. Oh, and then we got called to go outside and sit by the pool to get our pictures taken. And Marilyn was sitting with me at the table. And the umbrella moved around. We were chatting, and the umbrella moved around. And I was in the sun. I said, Marilyn, do you mind? I have to move it around. I cannot be in the sun. I'm too fair. She said, you're more fair than I am. I have the same problem. No, move it. And suddenly I had an idea. I said, my Brownie camera actually has films in it. Can I take a picture of you? She said, only if I can take a snapshot of you.
Oh,
and you know,
oh, you have a book?
This is my book, Tinkerbell Talks.
Okay.
And the 2 pictures are in there.
Oh, great. I was gonna ask. I was gonna say, is there somewhere an issue of Cosmopolitan that has you and Marilyn Monroe in
I
it?
never saw it. I never saw it, and they took flack for it. They did.
You're saying it never came out?
Oh, I sure did, but I never saw it. There's so many things that I do that I never see. You usually hired somebody.
That's my new mission. I gotta track this magazine down for you.
All right, okay.
So and now while you weren't getting back a little back to Peter Pan, while you weren't speaking in Peter Pan as Tinkerbell, you were speaking as one of the mermaids.
Hang on.
Oh yes, I will. Oh, there you are.
Can you see it?
That's you as a mermaid.
Yep.
So you were one
Marc
of the mermaids.
Davis. Marc Davis called me, and he said, "Would you like to be the work as the Redheaded Mermaid?" And I said, "Of course I would. I would love to." He said, "There's lines in this. So do you want to record?" I said, "Sure." So anyway, over I go, and there are three mermaids. We went to the soundstage,
Right.
and recorded the voices. And I got to do, I think I did the one that says, "We just wanted to drown her." Or I did the one which was, "Oh, Peter, we're so happy to see you." I just can't remember. Or they could have switched it. I don't know, because we did all the lines and then they used what they want.
But
And
essentially they were his fangirls, basically.
I'm sorry?
I said essentially the mermaids were Peter Pan's fangirls, essentially.
Yes. Yes. Well, when you read the book, which I will show you a little bit later.
Ah, look at that.
You will find out why those mermaids were so mean.
They were quite mean, absolutely.
Anyway, Connie Haynes was the blonde. I was the redhead. And you know who was the brunette? June Foray.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I remember you.
And June, if people don't know June, they must have seen.
Well, they know her from Rocky and Bullwinkle.
That's it. But she was also the grandmother in Mulan. She did all the voices. She was the great voice actress.
Yeah.
Well, here we are. We finished our recording, and we're standing out in front looking at each other, the three of us. We said, "Why in the world are we trying to get acting jobs in front of the camera? Voiceover is the way to go. I mean, you go in the afternoon, you're there for 2 hours, you don't have to learn any script. If they want to change anything, they write it in for you. If they don't like the character, you can change it right then and there. And you go home. No makeup if you don't want to." And June and I looked at each other, because she was doing a lot of radio at the time. But June and I looked at each other and said, "I think we would have given a fist bump if they had them then. Let's do it."
I love
And
it.
the last time I saw June Foray was about, I would guess about 7 or 8 years ago. And it was at an ASIFA gathering, and which she founded for the animation community.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I said, "June, you still had the greatest line in ASIFA, in Mulan." She says, "Really? What was that?" And I said, "I love your line. It's right at the very end where you say, 'Better you should have brought back a man.'" And she cracked up, and so did I.
Oh, I love it.
So anyway, I went into voiceover acting after that.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you were doing radio, and you mentioned that you also had your own TV show. Can you tell me a little bit about your own TV show? What was that all about?
Well, first of all, I wanted to show you something that was happening. Can you see it at all?
Yeah, so and this is
If You Knew Susie.
If You Knew Susie.
And that's me.
And Dick Humphreys.
And Dick Humphreys. He went on to be one of the assistants to Singing in the Rain.
Okay.
What's his name? The star.
Gene Kelly.
Oh, so anyway, and then this was the Ruggles show that I did. I'm trying to watch it at the same time.
Is that you?
That's me.
Who are you marrying?
No, that's my dad, Charlie Ruggles, the great comedian. And we did 172 shows on ABC. We are the first family sitcom that ABC ever did, network, border to border. And so I was busy, and we never broke for summer. We never broke. We just did them 172 weeks.
Yeah, back when seasons were actually seasons and not
exactly
whatever they are now.
And believe me, I didn't have much time to any kind of personal life, because I was brought up dancing and singing and making $8.50 a day in front of the camera.
That's why you're still sharp as a tack, because you've dedicated your life to all of this craft.
But when I was I forgot to tell you. I was going into voiceover for a minute, and then I'll get back to Peter Pan. My mother, who was the most annoying little Hollywood mother you ever met, she was just a dear. She was a sweetheart. She wanted everything for me, but I wish she didn't want it quite that much. Anyway, she walked into my room when I was 18 and said, and it was just around the same time, she said, "You may now date." I said, "But I don't know any boys." And she said, "Oh, you'll find them," and walked off.
Your mom gave you a date?
And this picture that you just saw me dancing, I was doing when I turned 18. So I walked up to the, Joan Davis was the star in it, and Eddie Cantor was the star along with it, and Bobby Driscoll was my brother in it. And I said to June, who was the dance-in for Joan Davis, I said, "I don't know any boys." So she said, "Follow me to Hollywood First Presbyterian Church next Wednesday night, and you'll find plenty of them."
Okay.
And I did.
Oh.
And I did. There were 200 people there. I mean, all young people, and Henrietta Mears and Billy Graham. And so it became my home away from home, as you can imagine, because they understood entertainers. Roy Rogers was there, and Murray Wilson, and I'll think of her name in a minute. Anyway, so at the same time, I met this young man, and we were dating. I had no idea what you did. His name was Robert Bokey, and we went to the beach together, as he says, fully clothed. He said it. And I introduced him to Zuma Beach. He'd never seen it before. And we dated. He was a USC graduate. He was just graduating. I'm telling you this for a reason. So, but then I got the job on the Charlie Ruggles show, and he got advanced in the company that he was with, and he got transferred. So we didn't see each other, and it went that way. And I ended up marrying the associate director on the Ruggles show. And he went into producing animation.
Oh.
Yes.
And this was after what? Yes. This was after 1954?
Yes. So we started in an animation, and I had also done two Andy Griffith shows. I had done The Lone Ranger and a whole bunch of other stuff, and still on television every place. And so my first husband, dear man, Richard Brown, who was designing Clutch Cargo.
Yeah.
And that's the one that had the mouths, our real mouths, and Space Angel.
So those of you who don't know Clutch Cargo, this is a series that Margaret did where it had drawings on screen, but the mouths were filmed.
Yes, yes.
That way they didn't have
they were,
yeah, it's a really looking combination.
The biggest, well, I don't apologize for it anymore because I watch anime, and I think, but
No,
anyway.
don't apologize for it. It's just such a unique thing to look at. It's very, very different.
So, so one of the shows that I did, let's see if you can see this one.
Yeah. Oh, there's the Stooges.
It's the Three Stooges. I did 139 episodes with them. And so I did voiceovers, about 600 of them.
You did the animated series of the Three Stooges, not the live action?
No. Although I did 7 live openings and closings.
Oh, okay.
And I have a disc of all of that too. It was really oddball, wonderful things that I have done.
Yeah.
The good Lord just opened up the door and said, "There, do that."
Love it. You never got a chance to meet Ed Wynn, did you?
No.
Oh,
wouldn't that have been lovely? Wouldn't that have been lovely? So anyway, I speak 21 different dialects and do about 48 different voices.
Did you have a coach for all that? How did you? No.
So that's what I was going to tell you.
Yeah.
And then I really will get back to Tinkerbell.
That's okay.
But do you remember on the Andy Griffith show, The Drunk?
It's been a while since I've seen Andy.
Yes, the Andy Griffith show. Good heavens, I can't tell the story when I can't remember his name. Anyway, he has done about, I'll think of it in a minute, about 10,000 voiceovers. That's how famous he is. And he and I did.
Oh, you mean?
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing.
Talented Mr. Limpet.
Hal Smith. Hal Smith.
Oh, Hal Smith.
How hard can that be to remember Hal Smith? Come on. Well, I'm 91, so what can I tell you? So anyway, he was on with the Ruggles show. That's where I met him, and that's where my husband met him. And then we used to do about 8 characters every episode each. And I did the little boy on the Clutch car. Go, "Gee, Clutch, what do we do now?" My husband came to me and said, "Can you do a little boy?" And I said, "Yes," and I did it. He says, "Good, now I don't have to pay you." So I did 239 episodes of those.
Oh my!
But I loved it. And Hal was across. So we would do things like, I suddenly would say, "Hal, I'm supposed to do a German accent here. And I don't know a German accent." He says, "You do not know a German accent? You step over here and I will show you how." I said, "Okay." So he says, "What you need is a sentence." "I need a sentence?" He says, "Yeah." I say, "She was looking out the window when I saw her." And that gets you into a German accent. Okay. And I went back and I could do a German accent.
I love it.
And that's how we did it, back and forth. It was just the best fun. I did the friends and all that.
Who was that?
I'm going to interrupt telling this.
You're fine.
But I'm a female, so I can do it. We interrupt all the time. I was adopted when I was 3.5. And in my new family, and they were old enough to be my grandparents, they never told me what family I came from. I remembered being adopted, but somehow I always knew that I was Irish. And as I started entertaining and doing all the things, I had this one story that I could tell, several stories, as a matter of fact, with an accent. And that's to prove how brilliant I am. And the story was this, and it's a funny story, and you may laugh. You have my permission.
Thank you.
Okay. But this is over at an Irish pub. They're knocking them back pretty good, and they're talking to each other. And one says to the other, "I don't know anything about this diversity stuff." And the other one says, I don't either. I don't know whether it's good or bad. Or, hey, let's go over and ask Paddy. He'll tell us. So they go over to Paddy and they say, Paddy, he says, what is it? He says, what would you be if you weren't Irish? He said, I'd be ashamed. So anyway, on my 54th birthday, I met my Irish family.
Wow.
I am Irish.
Wow.
I had a whole big family that came over from Ireland in
That's
1633.
Wow.
So that's a little aside. I thought that's
amazing. I'm so glad that you told that story. I am going to divert us, however, to your book, because I know you wanted to do a little bit of a reading, right?
That's what I'm going to do. Yes. How are we doing on time, by the way?
We are. I'm keeping an eye on it. We've got 20 minutes.
Okay. All right. So you saw my other book, and this is the other book that I take to shows and I sell. It's a leather-bound, unabridged Peter Pan book. Just like the original.
You sell copies of Peter Pan as well as the book that you wrote yourself.
Yes. And this one, I just want to show you. It has these lovely
illustrations are beautiful.
So also, I signed Walt Disney's picture, and it says, books take us to magical places.
I love it.
And so that goes in. And what I would like to do is to get back to Marc Davis.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I don't think people really know what a great artist, what a great man he was, because try to find a description of Tinkerbell. You can't. You can't. You can look and look and look. Well, there is one in the unabridged from James M. Barrie himself. And it's in chapter 3, and it's in the nursery. And I'd like to read it to you in dialect.
Please.
Okay. All right. With the little lights, the little night lights were burning brightly as the darlings left for the party. But suddenly in the room, there was another light, so much brighter, dashing about. And in the time that it has taken for me to tell you this, it had been in every pocket and every drawer and every closet in the nursery, looking for Peter Pan's shadow. But when it stopped suddenly, you could tell that it wasn't a light at all. It was a fairy, no bigger than your hand and still growing taller. It was a girl. Her name was Tinkerbell, and she was clothed in a skeletal leaf cut low and square, which showed her figure to best advantage.
Bravo!
That's
Bravo.
it. But that is it.
That's all.
And this man took all of that.
Yeah.
And turned her in. I was told that she is recognizable in Outer Mongolia.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, that is fantastic, and that's Marc Davis.
She would freeze there.
Yeah. No. They see pictures of her.
Oh.
But we were talking, I hope we have time to tell, you know, that James M. Barrie wrote the play and produced it, I think about 1904, over in England. And did you know that at the same time they produced a play called The Wizard of Oz?
Oh, I didn't know they were at the same time. That's interesting.
They were just about the same time. And there were other plays like that too. Well, Queen Victoria had passed away. So England was no longer mourning for her prince, Albert. And they were ready for fun stuff. And everybody over there believed in fairies. As a matter of fact, they sent around a photograph that showed fairies at the bottom of a garden. And there was a song that was finally written about it. And Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, yes, he believed in seances and he believed in fairies. So it was a happy time, et cetera, et cetera. Now, after that is when James M. Barrie published in 1911, published the book. And I do hope that some people will get the book, because it shows the difference. To start with, you will find out that Wendy is not in love with Peter. Peter is not in love with Wendy. Girls, blech, you know, I mean, I'm 11 or 12 years old. We don't talk about girls. And the reason that Tinkerbell is jealous of Wendy is because she thinks that she won't go on any more adventures with Peter. She's a groupie. She wants to go on the adventures. And that's, I think, what they saw in me as the image, because I'm adventure ho. I mean, let's go. I'll tell you about that in a minute.
Why were you saying in the book that you said it in the book the mermaids were really mean?
I won't tell you, and I won't tell you about the Lost Boys, because they can't tell Peter Pan something that he doesn't know, because that means that they will know more than he does, and they'll get kicked out. They won't be like, oh, he's a nasty little boy sometimes. He really is. And the last chapter is absolutely delightful. He comes back and Wendy has grown up. And you do know, by the way, that he came up with the name Wendy. There's never a girl's name like that before. That was his idea.
J.M. Barrie was it?
Yes. It was Wendy.
There
are so many things to learn.
Well, that means the name, not only is the story of Peter Pan only a little bit over 100 years old, that means the name Wendy is only a little bit over 100 years old as well.
Exactly.
Well,
it's just amazing.
It is.
So I wanted to tell you why it was important to hang on. It all comes together.
Okay.
Ooh, I go you wrong.
There you go.
Andy Griffith and me.
I see you.
Okay. Now the reason that I'm bringing that up is I still go up to Mount Airy, Andy Griffith's birthplace, and do Mayberry Days, where everybody changes it into. We have tribute artists. We have the best time. I don't know whether we'll make it this year, but 30 years we've done it. So anyway, this was last May. I have my 90th birthday, and I know I have to move. I'm moving out of California, where I have lived for 90 years. I didn't know where I was going. And suddenly I get this, an email. And it says, would you like to get back in touch with a Robert Bokey? And I thought, would I? And he is the man that I dated back when he was going to USC when I was 18 years old. So I sent a letter. Yes, I would. I remember him so well. And even with my face blindness, I remembered what he looked like. That's how important it was.
Makes quite the impression on you.
Yeah, so anyway, he's over in Amsterdam. It seems that he is going to be honored because he was in World War II. He will be at the commemoration of the 75th anniversary of D-Day. He is being one of those who were honored. And he was in Amsterdam to pick up the ship to go on the tour that they did. And he's walking down the street and he sees a store across the way that says, Tinkerbell's Toys, big sign. And he turned around to his friends and he said, did I ever tell you that I dated Tinkerbell and that I loved Tinkerbell? And they said, tell us. And so they got in touch with me. Now, just think if he had walked down the wrong street. So,
Right.
Anyway, 2 days later, I get a phone call from France. He's calling me from there. He comes back home. He lives in South Carolina. I have about 8 shows booked. So I know how busy I am, and I'm thrilled to talk to him. And I called him up and I said, you're in South Carolina, and the 3rd weekend in September, I will be in North Carolina. Do you suppose you could make it up? We could spend maybe days getting to know each other again. And he says, well, I have to have my 94th birthday first, which he did. And about 2 weeks after that, he climbed in his car and drove 8 hours up to Mount Airy. And he walked into the clubhouse where we were setting up for people to come and for me to sign autographs. And we looked at each other, and it was love at second sight.
Oh my gosh!
And we got married on St. Valentine's Day in the little brown church in the valley, in the valley, as I say. And Disney took all my people, all of his people who came for the wedding, took us on a tour of the sound stages and everything. And then the next day we were married. The next day we went to the smokehouse and Disney Club convention, had a big party, 130 people there. And they met Robert, who is just a dear, by the way. And then the next day we went to a Waltz Barn, and I hope people get to Waltz Barn at Griffith Park. Please look it up. It's wonderful. It's open 1 day a month, and that was the day. And the next day, Adventure Ho, we flew off to Sarasota, where my darling new husband bought us a house. And that's where I'm talking from.
What an incredible love story that you shared with us. Thank you.
Yes, it is. And I have one more story to tell you.
Okay.
And I think we're just about out of time, aren't we?
We have time for one more story, and then I got to plug your book.
Oh, all right. Okay. Plug the book first because I want to finish it.
Smart lady.
Yes.
Okay, so here we go. So, folks, if you want to get all the behind-the-scenes story about Margaret Carey and her Tinkerbell adventures, here's where you go. TinkerbellTalks.com, right there. And she's holding it in her hands, and I'm even going to go ahead and show you her website. This is her website. This is Tinkerbell Talks. And let's see here. Here we go. And you can click on Order Margaret's Book right there. And you have this wonderful option on here where people can change the little drop-down menu here. They can get it autographed, or they can get it autographed and personalized. And there's a picture right there of you doing that. Yes, that's on the cover, or inside the cover. Yeah. And so I think there are specialties for the people who are on this, on our meeting today. Do tell. And you can find it. You can find it on the website, I'm sure. Yes. The interesting part I would like to say about the book, there are 80 stories in it. 80. The longest one is 6 pages long. The shortest one is 1 page long. It's like a Reader's Digest, so you can pick it up and read it any place. It has 160 pictures in it, and I think you would have great fun. I mean, that's the best endorsement. Great fun is the best endorsement possible. Yes. And before your story that you wanted to tell, I have to ask you a really quick side note. All right. Okay. When you fly somewhere on a plane, do you kind of smile to yourself if someone says, "Hey, how are you?" and you're like, "I just flew in," because in the back of your mind, maybe you had wings? Well, as I can see, you can tell I'm a talker, and I love people. You're a talker? What? Yes, I've been accused. What? And so we usually meet right away and chit chat, and people open up to me and tell me who they are, and I open up and tell them who I am, and we have the best time. I met some of my best friends on the planes
coming back and forth. In fact, I got a call this morning from a lady who is flying into Orlando, and she wants to come down to Sarasota and have a day with us. And I met her on a plane. Yes.
Wonderful.
So thank you for that question. That's a great.
Well, tell me your story. You said you have a quick story for us.
I will. I want to finish up where I started with Marc Davis. I got a call one day from Mindy Johnson and from Andreas Deja.
Yep.
That they were doing a short film saluting Marc Davis, and could I come to their house, and do some clips? And I said, of course, I'd be happy to. I was having a gay old time, adventure, just chit-chatting. And I'm sitting there in the chair, and suddenly Andreas brings in about 5 sheets of thick white paper curled at the edges. I would say maybe 2 feet tall, maybe 2 by 3, with sketches on them. I'll be with you. Hang on. And they were the sketches that I saw on Marc's wall. And so I got to talk about his sketches that were sitting in my lap. And it reminded me of the first time that I stepped out in front of the camera. And I said, Mr. Davis, and you imagine how long ago that was, Mr. Davis. And I said, what do you want her to be? Do you want to be ditzy like Betty Boop? Do you want her to be above it all like Queen of the Fairies? And he looked softly and looked up at me and softly said, Margaret, we want her to be you. And I said, golly, I think I can do that.
And do it you did.
Yeah.
Thank you for that story.
It's very close.
Do you still have those drawings?
I never got them. They're his. But I got to hold them. And that's pretty neat. That's pretty neat.
That is pretty neat. Well, before we wrap up, I do want to just read a few of the comments that people have been pouring in while we've been having our conversation.
Oh, really?
Oh, so many. Let's see here. We've got Robin Gosson from Austin, which I assume is the same Austin that I'm in. She says, hi, Margaret, you look terrific. Love the pictures, she says. And then let's see, we've got someone named Aaron Ogawa saying, I was lucky to have met Margaret at the D23 Expo in 2014, or 2013, I mean. That same Aaron is asking if you have any favorite Disney memories.
Oh, I think I've given them tonight. So, Aaron, we'll have to do it again to get some others. Okay.
Sure. Let's see here. What else we've got? Lots of people are just saying they love you. They love Tinkerbell. They said Leslie Smith says Margaret is an amazing dancer. Let's see here. We have somebody someone named Stevie who wants me to look up that magazine so that we can find the one with you and Marilyn. And so I have homework now. Let's see. We have someone named Diane LaBruma saying, hi, Tinkerbell from Philadelphia. Let's see. Someone named Britt saying that she just learned about the mouth movement animation a few weeks ago. She just learned about that. Stevie says, I didn't know that Margaret did so much. She is so cool and sweet and great. Britt says that her and her father are huge fans of the Stooges, and she loves that you worked with them. And Andy Griffith. Melissa says the drunk on Andy Griffith was named Otis.
Yes, Otis Campbell. I remember now. And his real name is Hal Smith. What a wonderful man.
There we go. Everyone is touched by your love story with your husband. Everyone is just pouring out affection for that, about how it's a beautiful love story. Let's see. Someone named
knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Someone named Gina Marie says, "Hi, Margaret. I miss you." Crystal Piper says, Miss Margaret, my family lives in Sarasota. Maybe we can meet someday or sometime.
Would that be something?
And Stevie says, you are a great storyteller, Margaret, and I agree. Everyone's thanking you. Sharon Duncan is saying she's from Tampa. Thanks for the wonderful stories. I love hearing them.
She's originally from Scotland.
Duncan.
With a name like Duncan.
Sure. And lastly, we've got Robin Gosson from Austin says, Lance says hello. And then Bob Burden says, Margaret, hello, we love you and you look fabulous. Big Bob and Rose say you are a true star. Look how much love in the room. So much love in the room for you, Margaret.
Isn't it? How about that? You handle a really good show. You know that, fella?
Oh, well, thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
It helps to have.
I felt so comfortable. No, but I really did. I felt so comfortable. As I say, being a female and jump from one story to the other, I didn't see any terror on your face at all.
I was raised in a family of mostly women, so it helps.
So you know.
It helps. Thank you for saying that, though. And let's see here. Oh, Leslie Smith says, I miss you, but I'm so glad that you are with your Robert. I hope I don't have to wait until I'm 90 to meet the right person. Oh, well, I guess Britt Taylor said that she sent a friend request a few months ago and got accepted, but this is the first time she's been able to say hello to you, so she's happy to say hello to you. So thank you for doing this tonight, Margaret. You were an absolute pleasure and joy to speak with, as always.
It was my pleasure, and I'm going to send faith and trust and a whole bunch of pixie dust to y'all. Okay?
Absolutely. Thank you. And I will talk with you soon. And thank you again for being here. Make sure you guys pick up her book.
Thank you.
Bye, Margaret.
Bye-bye.
Well, this was the 10th episode of Stay Tuned Live. There's 3 more episodes left in this season. If you would love to hear more conversations with folks from the animation industry, including the one I had with Margaret back in 2018, you can do that by going and looking up Stay Tuned in your favorite podcast app, or you can simply go to anchor.fm/Philmaki, and you can check out all the first 2 seasons of Stay Tuned, the podcast, right there. That's going to do it for tonight's show. I'd like to once again thank my special guest, Margaret Carey, for spending her time and for spreading her special brand of pixie dust with us all. Thank you also so much to all of the Stay Tuned patrons. Your support continually encourages me each month and helps me make it possible to keep doing what I do as an independent creator. If you enjoy these weekly free shows and you'd like to support them, go ahead and visit patreon.com/Philmaki to learn more about the various reward tiers, and you can sign up today. And while you're at it, go ahead and check out my original comic books at philmaki.com. You can also be sure to say hi to me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook under my name or under the title Retail Sunshine, which is the characters you see behind me there. Once again, if you guys have not already, please join the Stay Tuned community page right here on Facebook. It's a great place to meet people who are fans of this show, but also just fans of animation in general. You'll get free daily updates about all the things happening in the world of animation around the world. Get involved now at facebook.com/groups/Stay Tuners. I've been Phil Maki. You've been a wonderful audience. And until next week, keep those eyeballs peeled, those ears open, and be sure to stay tuned.